Hey folks. Sorry about that. Hey folks, if you're joining me right now, I'm just getting started with setting up a dev environment for my new learning management system. I'm calling it Eat, Sleep, Learn until I can either come up with a new name or settle on this one. So right now what I'm trying to do is set up a Next.js application for the front end and Firebase for the back end. Now, of course, I want this application to also be server-side rendered, and to do that, I'm going to use Firebase functions. So I also need to set the project up in a particular sense so that I can get it to be, to render the front end in a server-sided way using Firebase functions. That's odd. Okay, I see what I did wrong there. Right. This, of course, is a long-term project, so it'll most likely carry on for a bit while I install the dependencies, but there shouldn't be too many dependencies to begin with. Later down the line, we might find that we need more and more tools, but that's alright. We'll install those dependencies as we go. But this is a new project I'm starting. I'm hoping to make some decent headway in it throughout through these next few weeks. I imagine I'll have plenty of time to work on it, given the current global circumstances. But I'm gonna try and space it out to at least 4 hours of streaming and coding a day. That should be enough to make significant progress in the project while keeping me from getting burned out while I work on it. This isn't the first LMS I've built. I've built one before, and I built one before about 3 years ago, back in 2017, but I had not updated it since then. I had originally built it using client-side rendered React and Python with the Django backend, and I believe a MySQL database. But yeah, like I said, I had not updated it since then, and That was still running, I think, believe React 15 or something back then. But yeah, it's that gathered dust and was riddled with vulnerabilities and problems and bugs that I just did not have the time to fix at the time. But now it's 2020, and I had received quite a lot of requests to improve on it, to pick it back up again. So here we are, working on it. Working on a new version, this time with a bit more modern technologies. I want server-side rendering for the SEO. I want faster server response times. I want to I want the Firebase backend simply so I can deploy it as easily as possible without needing to install anything on a production server myself. So I really just don't have the time for that. I really do not have the time for that. So we've got our dev dependencies all set, and that should be all for dev dependencies for now. I'm gonna write a few Node.js scripts real quick so that I can, or commands real quick, so that I can handle these later, or use them for the deployment and development server deployment. And because I'm not using the I'm not using the default directories for Firebase functions or Node.js. I have to be a bit more specific with my my file locations here. That should be correct. Good. Alright, that should be it for the npm yarn scripts that I want to run. Thomas Greco, it's not correct. Exterior dev. Next, let's go ahead and set up, let's set up Redux. Just get all this, all these dependencies out of the way. So, I want Axios. I typically don't use the standard fetch because you can't if you're doing server-side rendering. Fetch is a web technology, a browser-based front-end technology which does not work with server-side rendering. There's plenty of other alternatives for it, like node fetch and unfetch and Axios, which is my preferred one. Do I have the? I don't. That's odd. Usually with Next.js it automatically installs this, but I guess not. Take care of that. I want to run an Express server on top of Firebase. Let's see. What was my previous test case for that? Ah, yes. I will have to do that. But I will wait until later to tackle that issue. Specifically for certain routes, which I want to use some prettier URLs. I remember being at first not too happy about running an Express server on top of Firebase, but it turned out not to be so bad. Oh, my voice is coming out through there too. Whoops. Alright, let's try this again. Where did I leave off? Did I get cores? Yes, I did. Perfect. Do I have Firebase functions? Yes, I do. Firebase admin. Great. What about normal Firebase? I don't, but I believe I should be fine without it. JS cookie, don't think I'll need it for now. Moment I will need, but later on. I'll need next fonts. Overall, I guess for these few streams I'd like to just focus on the front-end design for now. I'll tackle functionality soon enough, but for now I just want to be able to visualize what exactly I want to create. And of course with the having already built one before, this is basically I guess a complete overhaul of a previous project of mine. I have a general idea of the functions I need and how I want it to look, but there's quite a few things that need to be modernized, and that's definitely where I will have to do most of the work. On top of that, I'm no designer, so that's also where a lot of my efforts will be put into trying to come up with a design on my own that isn't completely terrible. So as you see, I'm also getting a few more things aside from the Redux libraries, just so I can take care of them now instead of later. Redux process really got me in a bind quite some time ago. One of the one of the issues with Redux Persist is that it does not work with the immutability, the immutability library, which I really enjoyed using with client-side rendered React. The issue there is that with client-side rendered React, if you need something persistent, you can just use the local storage on the client-side rendered application. But you can't do that with server-side rendered application because there is no local storage on a server-sided application. So the alternative was using Redux Persist, which you can't use with immutability because the immutable library requires that the state object, stored state object, be a flat object. But Redux Persist injects some additional object code when it saves the state. So yeah. Usually it injects the persistent state, which causes the object to no longer be a flat object, and instead be two objects, I believe. But yes, that is the reason why I can't use immutability anymore, and frankly, I don't miss it. While immutability is great for large-scale applications, it also adds an additional layer of complexity, which detracts from actually creating an easy to code or an easy to contribute application. Alright, so I think we've got most of our, if not all of our libraries. There we go, that's what I like to see. Quite a few updates. Quite a few updates in the latest version of Next.js and the Emotion library. Right now, Emotion.js is in a state where it's transitioning from Emotion 10 to Emotion 11, so there are quite a bit of new features and features getting depreciated. Like this right here. This default is something that I am none too familiar with, but quick browse through the Emotion.js, Next.js example can unravel that for me. Okay. Interesting. styles. Do not need this anymore. Or this. Needless to say, I can't say I'm too happy with these changes. I mean, in the default installation, we don't expose the app or the document.js, though, to be fair, I would expose them anyway. I mean, I need to use them, so yeah. This is definitely a new way of going about it, and I can't say I'm in favor of it. Way. I'll leave it as is for now. In the meantime, let's power through with setting up our Redux. Like they're using here. Maybe I can get away with just doing this right here. Export default class. No, thank you. Prefer that method. Try to get the initial properties from the state. And if not, just return an empty object. So right now I'm creating the store. I'm also creating it to work with the reducer. I mean with the persisted reducer. When it comes to Redux, typically tend to use a custom middleware, so I prefer Thunk. Alternatively, there's also Redux sagas, but they take a bit more effort to set up and have some weird side effects to them. I used to use Redux sagas quite often when I first started out, but since being introduced to Thunk, I mean, it's just so easy to use and set up and get started with. I just make Thunk my primary form of reducer middleware. So we add the store to our provider. We're also going to add the persist gate with the persist store, which is our persisted state. I'm not going to set up a loading animation or any component just yet. That is not necessary at the moment. But I will add the main component and the cache provider from Emotion.js. Yeah. Next, we need to change the default, the export with Redux, and configure store along with debug true for now. Actually, I'll call this main app because I do not want to get it confused with my other, I guess, this index, which is home. Actually, I could just call that home. Call this app. Yeah, that'll do. That'll work for now. Not resolve, oh yes, reducers. Let's just create a dummy reducer file for now. Reducers to combine into the root reducer. This is also one of the slightly annoying things about Redux persist is that when you have your reducers, you need to combine them in this way, then also set them as a child of reducer. Or inside of another reducer object. check. How are we doing here? Okay, what's our error? Storage is not defined. Forget. Store. I think yeah, there should be storage there. Correct. Yeah. Yep, there should definitely be storage. Yep, there we go. Everything renders just fine. I do have a few warnings now because store does not have a valid reducer because I'm not importing anything from the importing anything to the reducer. I have no states at the moment, but I will soon. I am missing a few things. I did notice this new version of Next.js with Emotion.js does not have the Babel configuration file. I'm wondering if it is even necessary. It has me a bit worried, but we'll find out later on. I do need the next config.js. It has me worried because it's not in the documentation, and it was just such a sudden change without any notice. So yeah, I mean, if they got rid of it, that's great. Yes, this will allow us to use fonts, local fonts, on our web application. So I'll be able to download fonts and include them in our web application to actually make the default fonts not look so terrible. I'm tired now. It's almost 10 o'clock here in Finland. Let's go for fixing fixing the Firebase file. I'd like to also get rid of Firebase stuff. Everything within the Firebase directory. Dump the Firebase RC file. Dump the Firebase JSON. Modules is not included, and yeah, don't want the public file either. And of course, no hidden files included. Okay, That should take care of it for the Firebase setup and the Redux setup. I'll most likely have to set the preset for Firebase, but I don't plan on deploying on Firebase tonight. For now, let's just focus on the local development. Now then. Let's go ahead and let's set up our index, our homepage. Oh, that's great. Well, you know, I hear there's some good things happening with machine learning and AI these days. You might be in luck there. Alright, so I've got... Yes, I'm going to just include the Redux. Yeah, I'll include the Redux as well. And we'll create a style file for it, separate style sheet. What should I call it? Call it global. For now. Let's create the styles. Just to start us off, I'll just create the container style here. Typically this is the one of the first styles I'll make. So maybe I might... Yeah, you know what? I will put the global style here inside the persist gate. Actually, I'll put it inside the cache provider. This is one thing that always bugged me about doing global styles with motion, is that it, you have these things right here, which, yeah, this is such a weird way of writing a global style. This is also one of the most annoying parts about web development, is that you always have to set the body, or even, set the body to have a margin of 0 and a padding of 0.